Hello!
Hi.
Oh, is that really the start?
We're doing a bonus episode.
Of manual breathing.
Yeah.
Manuel.
Can we have that be the name for all our social media? Because I almost did it, like Manuel Breathing or something like that. I was like, it'll be fun. I'll just do Manuel.
Man, you all breathe.
So this is a little bit more informal of an episode.
Because our other ones are very formal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We wear suits and ties to all the other ones, but this one, it's sweater. It's sweater time.
You know, maybe sometime down the road we'll consider videotaping our podcast. Do you think?
I cut out a lot of dumb stuff we say.
I think that requires us to be attractive as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't quite.
And we can't do that with only Jay and Calum.
Cody Co, we're coming up.
Well, I think it's basically going to be story time, right?
Yeah.
You guys have a couple of good stories. I don't know if I have a story. I'll figure out if you guys tell me something good. Tell me something good. Yeah, that reminds me of like a good story. Kaegan, I think you have a great story.
Let's see, I have some options. So we'll do a poll. The voodoo curse that's put on my family. The time that I almost flew off of a 2 to 3 story building that had a giant ramp on it. Me getting paid to get my hair cut on Times Square. Or a fourth option.
Voodoo curse.
I can go with voodoo curse right now.
Voodoo curse?
Yeah.
Alright. So this is the story of how I almost fell off that roof because I decided what I was going to do before I ever asked you.
This guy is the worst guy.
By the way, on the podcast, but on the Instagram, I looked up Will Taylor and followed like 4 Will Taylors.
Be sure to follow us.
Be sure to follow Will Taylor
on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah. Do you have the handle for Instagram?
Manual Breathing Pod, and that's it.
Oh, yeah. So that's for Instagram, Manual Breathing Pod. And for Twitter, they kind of decided one for us. It's @Manual Podcast.
Oh, I'm really glad it wasn't like, @Manual Pod 12ABC34 or something like that.
So if you're listening to our podcast right now because you're really into skateboarding, I'm sorry to tell you this is not about the trick of doing a manual. But please follow us on our social medias.
If you were a fan of famous philosopher Immanuel Kant, that's not it either.
Nerd, Calum.
I'm the woke one. It's what I do.
Okay, so speaking of being unwoke, freshman year of college, doesn't matter what college, me and my roommate got very bored of living the old college life, studying and going to class and things like that. Yeah, so what we decided to do is we spent every weekend doing something interesting. Like my spring break, I spent time with family because there was kind of a family medical thing. So I got to spend time with my wonderful family, but I didn't get to do anything crazy. So I came back and I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. His name is Matt. We're going to do something every single weekend. I don't care what it is, but we're going to get out of the dorms. We're going to go and just live a life.
Yeah.
And then we ended up doing hiking. We started getting to bouldering. And it's a loose term, bouldering, because we just would drive up to random cliff faces and just try and climb them. Terrible, terrible idea.
I'm sure it was.
Sometimes it would take 2 hours, sometimes it would take about 30 seconds to realize that you can't climb this.
Unreliable hobby.
And then you're like climbing up and you realize that like, okay, I have to do this move. And like as soon as I do this move, I cannot go back down the way I did. Like, there's no way that I can go down. So anyway.
The fire department was called numerous times.
I wish that we had some sort of safety net. But no, we were just hoping really hard, shaking on the wall. But so we decided when we couldn't make it out, like especially if it was at night, we would just go on the campus and try and climb as many buildings as we could. One of the buildings has a really big hump in the middle, and then it goes off it goes down, and at the bottom there's another hump, and then there's literally a ramp just leading off the building. That will come up later. So we were getting on the field house, and the way you have to get on it took us weeks because we were so nervous because you have to do this 10-foot drop. Like, if you're, like, holding yourself off, it's like 4 feet. But still, it's, like, terrifying. And so we finally were like, you know what, we'll just do it. We didn't know how we were going to get down. Even when we were on the roof, we were just hanging out up there, and we were like, I still have no idea how we're going to get
Planning
down.
during dangerous activities? Boring.
That's what I'm saying. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
So, we went up there. There was a rope that was completely sun damaged. If we put any of our weight on it, we 100% would have broken it. But it was hanging there, so we were like, oh, we'll totally use that to get up if we get stuck and then get down the same way we came up. It was just like a little safety for us to just be like, okay, we can get back up if
All
we need
I can think
to.
of is the famous climber that went out like 20 years ago from just using a sun-damaged rope, as you're explaining this to me.
Interesting. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yep. Super professional dude just died from a sun-damaged rope.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue your story about using a sun-damaged rope.
It was just the excuse we used to get down. So we're chilling on this roof, and we ended up like getting on our backs and like sliding down this big hill that's on the roof and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was just fun. And that's when we hatched the idea that we would take sleds up there, because on our backs, there's so much friction on a sled. You can just get down there and do whatever.
That nonsense.
So the way we got down is we had to climb a tree, sort of. So like there's all these branches that reach the roof, but if you put all of your weight on any one of the branches, it will break. So we had to, with each limb, we had 1 foot on 1 foot on branches each, and then we had a branch in each hand, and we just had to inch our way forward to the base of the tree until it was like strong enough to carry us. And so that's how we got down, and we were like, yeah, boom, next time we're bringing up sleds, it'll be great.
Yeah.
It was May, so we're not total idiots, but we brought sleds up there, and it had iced over randomly.
Oh.
Don't know why or what happened.
Sounds like you don't need sleds so much.
Explain weather to me, but so we got up there, and it's like the little hump, the little hill, is you can't even climb up it. Like, you have to use like these random pipes that are like just attached to the roof, and you gotta hold it and like get up. And I had shoes on that I could do that with, and Matt couldn't. So I went to the very top of the big hill, and we're talking like, I don't know, like if you were to just start sliding, it'll take you 3 to 5 seconds to get to the bottom.
Yeah.
It's a good sized little hill on a roof. And so I went up there, I tied the sled with the sun damaged rope. Turns out you can just take it, and not very sturdy, but I tied it around my leg, and then I tied it to the sled so I could use all 4 limbs, and I like inched my way up this pipe. It took 5 minutes for me to get up. And then I got to the top, I got on the sled, or tried to, I put it under me, and if I fell backwards, the little hill that's on the other side, it's not there. It's just a straight launch into the parking lot. Didn't want to go there. So I was like, okay, that's what was on my mind. Don't want to go in the parking lot, that would be a bad idea. And then I slip and I fall on the sled, so there's nothing I can do now. And I realize that I'm heading straight for this like grate that's sticking out of the roof, and it's just like a part of the roof. And I'm like, that's weird. I want to turn and not be going towards that. And as I tried to turn, I realized that I'm turning, like my legs are turning.
Yeah.
The sled, not so much. Just ice. It's just going down ice. And so I go down, and I'm just like, well, this is what's going to happen. And I went sideways, so my thigh took the brunt of it. I broke the metal grate out of the roof. And I went backwards. And I cannot tell you how bad it hurt. Matt immediately starts dying laughing. He cannot contain himself. And I'm sitting there and I'm laughing with him, but that laughing that's like, if I don't laugh right now, I'm gonna cry. So it's like just this desperate, like,
exert that energy out somewhere.
It's like just this desperate, like, I'm in so much pain and he won't stop laughing, and I'm just like trying to figure out how to not be in pain anymore. I broke the sled. There's a whole chunk of it that's gone.
God.
And all this stuff. And so after I got a hold of myself, I
Climb back up and did it again.
You're good.
Yeah.
So I tied it back to my leg.
No!
You're so good. And so I climbed back up another 5 minutes, and this time I was like, alright, I'm not going to slip, and I'm not going to hit that thing. It'd be pretty hard to hit it since it wasn't attached to the roof anymore, but still, we moved it out of the way. And I had, like, speed, too. And so I went again, and this time I was like, cool, no danger of hitting it. I hope I make it over the hump. Like, that's my goal, is to make it over the hump. What had happened was, is I easily made it over the hump and realized that I don't want to go any further because there's just a ramp off of the roof. So I like go down and I make it over the hump and I'm like, oh man, like I am still going. That's weird. And and so as I'm going, I realize that I'm not slowing down like at all, and I'm heading
Crazy
straight to this
how
ramp
ice
in the roof.
works.
It's so weird, right?
So weird.
And I realized that I'm going to.
Yeah, blame the ice.
Yeah, I mean, I made all the right decisions, so
Yeah.
there's no way it's my fault. But so, thankfully, there was one big puddle in this 30-degree night that was sort of between me and it was like to my left a little bit. So I bailed off the sled as much as I could. And just hit the water and slowed down just enough to like reach to the beginning of the ramp. And so I'm sitting there freezing, and Matt took a video and he couldn't see past the hump. So he has no idea what happened. And he's just laughing his butt off because I'm going so fast. And so on the video it's just me coming out of darkness at like 20 miles an hour and then going over this ramp. And he's like
just disappearing into the ether.
And like I'm freaking out on the other side and he's just laughing his butt off. And so I'm sitting there and I walk over and I'm just like shivering because it's so cold.
In shock.
And yeah, and he's just like sitting there laughing and I'm like
So,
trying to explain what happened.
How big of a drop off would it be if you didn't bail into the puddle?
I think it was like 30-40 feet.
Wow.
And at that point it wasn't
You make very bad decisions. Incredible.
and at that point it wasn't like asphalt and cars, it was just concrete between two buildings.
No.
And then my only saving grace would have been, you know that stuff that they put like on roofs so pigeons don't like perch there? It's like just wires that are coming
Yeah,
out.
just like spiny
Maybe
heels.
I would have been stabbed and caught on that. That's my solace.
Free acupuncture.
You made so many incredibly bad decisions in just one evening.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, I guess the bailing into water on a 30-degree night was the best bad decision you made.
That was the one that saved me from at least broken bones.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 20-something and invincible, so I can't,
Of course.
die.
Yeah, that's probably what was
insane.
going into your mind.
Absolutely.
I love the thrill of defying death. You know, that's I don't know if that was what was quite going through your mind, but I feel like going through these risky moves and things like that's probably the same reason why people like to go skydiving.
Yeah.
I want
Or
to go
people-
skydiving so bad.
This
I
is
don't think you should
basically
be trusted.
this is basically
think you
the
should be
equivalent of throwing your chute out and jumping out after it and trying to catch a chute.
That would be so dope. You know the
What
only
is
reason I
wrong
haven't
with
gone
you? Why
skydiving-
don't you learn?
What are you talking about? What do you? Because I've survived doing all this stuff. I can't die. But anyway, do you know the only reason that I hesitate to go skydiving? I really wish I could just sign a bunch of extra paperwork and not have a dude attached to me. Like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know? They have a watch that'll tell you, like, oh, this is your elevation, so in, like, what is it?
You know, if you
10,000?
go a few times, you can eventually do it on your own.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'll be able to afford to go a few times.
Yeah, it's
Well,
very
back
expensive.
then, my dad was able to do it, and he just had a wire attached to his chute from the plane. So like he jumped by himself, but after a certain distance, which was probably right away.
Yeah,
as soon as
I mean, like,
as
how
soon
much
as he
wire
cleared
do
the
they
plane,
have?
The chute just automatically pulled off, and he was able to pull.
But that's a
But he was
little
able to
less
go-
exciting. Is the thing
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
like
you're not free falling for this long.
yeah.
Yeah.
And your life isn't completely in your hands. See, what I would do is I would bring scissors, cut the wire, and then
Force yourself to use the
try
backup
really
chute.
hard to like grab it and pull it myself.
You know what I would want to try skydiving would be to jump out and just do things I always wanted to test as a kid. Like, if I had like 3 trash bags, would that slow me down a little bit? If I had like 2 umbrellas, you know. could
I'm
I-
purely like I'm nowhere near the athleticism required for this, but I want to snowboard onto a mountaintop, full on SSX tricky style, and just go down the rest of the mountain after like detaching my parachute at the top.
Wow,
Like that is the dream.
that would be
I
dope.
wish-
And I'm 20 something and can't die, so frankly, what's stopping me?
That's what
So tune in next week when we're gonna try jumping off of a helicopter
We're
onto a mountain.
gonna do the podcast from the drop. It's gonna start with us in the helicopter, and it's just gonna be us holding a mic all the way down.
We'll just have background noises and us screaming. And just pretend that we're doing that. I'm down.
Oh, that's
Alright.
fantastic, though. I'm glad that you made it out
Yeah.
alive,
Me too.
and that is a great story that you mentioned Matt kind of has documented.
Yeah. So when are we going to see that?
You know what? While Caleb's telling his story, I will go on my Snapchat and try and find it.
So it's good to hear that Kaegan's still breathing to this day. But are you still breathing?
Oh, manually? By yourself?
Is that tongue still in the right place in your mouth? Your eyes still blinking at the right pace?
As much as we want, like, the viewers to, like, be like, oh, man, you got me. Like, I think we're really getting ourselves, like, near 100% of the time.
The blinking messes me up for the rest of the recording. Absolutely.
Are you hearing? Let's take a quick break, and we're going to watch that video, and maybe we'll post it online for everyone to see.
I wouldn't mind.
We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back. So should I talk about cookies or the time I got a rock shot into my eye?
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that this cookies thing is going to involve, like, burglars and the president of the United States.
Nowhere in here.
He's,
incredible.
like burying the lead really hard. And, like, with this rock shot in the eye thing, it's like the story that's more boring. You know what I'm talking about?
I do like pain, though.
The cookies one is just something that grinded my gears recently.
And the
I don't wanna
rock
handle
shot
it.
into your eye is something. I mean, I sit
It's
here and I
about
see
Korea.
Wait a second.
I think you know the story.
You've
I think I've told you the story.
been to Korea?
I've been to Korea.
Whoa, I don't know if I can hang out with someone who's so cultured.
한국 사람이에요.
Cultured.
So when I studied over in South Korea for a year, one day I got a message from this large group chat that we were all part of. And they said, we need someone really white for a job. And I was like, sounds very...
Perfect for you.
Perfect for me. Because I am a pasty man.
Real, what do I always say? Real Aryan race looking dude.
I don't like that term personally. Please don't use that.
Wait. Are you allowed to mention, like, what Korean drama you were in?
I'm gonna mention it, yeah. So, I starred in like a few, and by starred, I mean I drank coffee in the background of shots, pretty much. I was a background
Your name
actor,
got first billing, so.
but I was first billing on the posters.
Dang. Are
So-
we even allowed to be in the same room as you?
No, you broke
That's why
ass.
you have bodyguards all the time.
Yeah, that's Chris in the background. He's just making sure I'm
I
good.
didn't notice the AirPods in your ear.
Chris, you want to speak up? Yeah.
Alright, so you're in this K-drama.
I was in a K-drama. It was called Mr. Sunshine. It was a Korean War for Independence kind of one from the Japanese during the 19th century, I want to say.
Can we watch that? What?
Yeah, it's on
about?
Netflix.
Do you happen to know, like, the minute?
Yeah, do you know the frame that you're in?
I know like 3 frames that I'm in, and that's basically it. So one of the shoots that we did, it was an all-day shoot out like 3 hours outside of Seoul. Real long drive out there, super early in the morning. We get there, no sunblock because I'm an idiot, and it's just out in the sun all day long. We're in these tough officer-like clothing, just coats on, everything. We're given American flags and rifles and all kinds of stuff. And
You're only the whitest man in Korea. Why would you need any sunscreen?
yeah, frankly, why would I? So by hour about 5, my skin was burning and there was smoke in my eyes because they had live fires on this set. The whole shoot was this giant army charge across an open field towards another army on the opposite side. And one of the things they didn't really tell us until we got there was going to be live explosions. Yeah. So I get there and, they're just like, just don't step directly where the landmines are. There's like 50 of us on each side, like bumping into each other. And there's just these dingy little flags marking where like the little mines are. They're not real mines, they're prop mines, but prop mines still explode. Like it's covered with manure and a little bit of dirt just over it to just launch it everywhere. And I get a little close to one at one point in the day, and it just launches, it goes off and it launches a rock right into my sunburnt, smoke-covered face.
Oh my god.
And I'm just immediately like trying to rub it off, just tears rolling out of that eye, bright red.
You're really feeling
somehow
the passion
not
of the Lord.
bleeding. Yeah, I'm really getting into the acting. That's why they calling me Calum, top star. Not gonna say my last name on this podcast.
Interesting. So you're willing to give up everybody else's personal information, but not your own.
If you'd like to visit Jay, this is where you can find him.
Real quick, did the director? Did you know Korean at this time? Like,
I knew barely any.
so you don't know for sure the director wasn't like, all right, we got him.
You can't.
Next shot.
You might have just been stoked about it. Earlier in the day, I accidentally set an American flag on fire too. That was something.
Oh, so
because
get
there were
out
like
of
these.
the country.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
leave America, go back. No, because they had like these giant pillars covered in barbed wire that were also on fire. So I'm waving this giant, like 6 foot long flag over me, and wind catches it, it catches onto the barbed wire. I'm like trying to tear it off of the barbed wire as it's catching on fire.
Jeez.
And yeah, it was very concerning.
You really put this flag through.
You know how much I got for this job of getting shot in the eye?
4,000 baht.
I don't even think you know how much that is. I got about the equivalent of $150 for the
That's
entire
actually
day.
pretty
Worth
cool.
it.
I don't know. So yeah, I got the rock into the eye.
more
I'm
than I make
taken
in a day.
off the set, and the crew are just pouring water and like eye drops into my eye, trying to like flush it out because I think like some dirt's like deep in there too. So it's just so much pain at this point. And at one point, the lead actor, Lee Byung-hun, a very famous Korean actor who starred in like one of the best horror movies I've ever seen, I Saw the Devil, he comes up to me and he's just like, just gives me a thumbs up. And I'm just like, and I just look at him with like tears rolling down my face and just give him a thumbs up back.
Not all
And
heroes wear
that's,
capes.
that's my encounter with famous actors.
That's what actors are for. They're, they just make sure the stuntman's all right.
The accidental stuntman that did not sign up. All he wanted to do was be white in Korea for a while.
Eventually, my agent, who's an agent for
Oh, he has
dozens
an
of people,
agent too.
sounds very
big
flattering
man.
terminology. She goes, we got to take him to the hospital. So I go to the hospital. It's not even on the way to Seoul. I think the nearest one was like half an hour farther away. So then we had to drive like, it wasn't 3 hours out. I had to drive like 2.5 hours back to Seoul after the hospital. We get to the hospital. I'm red in the face, covered with dirt, crying a little bit. And they're
Wow,
just
what a
like,
baby.
they're like, oh, is he drunk and homeless?
You've only had an explosion go off in your face, dude. Like,
I
be a
was
man.
so red in the face that they thought that I had the Asian blush. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's where
It's
you
when
embarrass someone who.
Yeah, of course.
I know firsthand.
So it's when you get too many drinks in you. It's a gene common amongst Asian populations where they get very red in the face when they have a lot of alcohol in them. So because I showed up so red and dirty, they just thought I was some drunk dude just stumbling, falling in dirty piles and stuff like that.
You seem like you would stick out in Korea.
Yeah.
And
There
then
was
still-
so much dirt in my hair. I have naturally white, blondish hair. It was brown. It was completely brown, and I went to the bathroom and I just rinsed it out, and then I laid down, and my agent and her translator, they were like, okay, close your eyes, rest your eyes, and then they took a photo with me when I closed my eyes. They posed over my body.
Were they doing like
in the bed?
the
Yeah, they were
finger
doing I think they genuinely were doing the finger heart, which is very popular in Korea,
And
over
Thailand.
my like dying body in this bed.
Dying seems like
Maybe a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah, those Americans always exaggerating everything.
Yeah. So that was my experience of getting a rock shot into my eye on this
Wait, that's
K-drama set.
How did they get it out? That's you.
They poured a
and
bunch
just-
of medicine in, stared into my eye, and just kept rinsing it over and over and over.
How long were you there?
I was there for maybe half an hour getting it rinsed, I'd say.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have told the story about.
And then I had to wear an eye patch for like a week because it just still kind of hurt afterwards. I think
Oh, you get
it's
to be a pirate?
I got to be a
Damn,
pirate.
that sounds awesome.
You got paid $150.
I saw a famous K-pop group, Blackpink, as a pirate.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Well.
So you saw him in 2 dimensions.
Isn't that crazy?
But yeah, I'm pretty sure the rock scratched my eyeball too. There was another guy who actually got a rock launched at his head that day, and I'm pretty sure he had to be sent home early too because they thought he had a concussion. So I wasn't even the first one. They hit somebody with a rock and were like, keep it rolling.
OSHA.
Keep it rolling. Yeah, OSHA. Get on this man.
Do you still have like everlasting damage?
Yeah, are you scared of rocks now?
I'm scared of rocks. I go rock climbing and I'm just screaming
listen to
the
rock
whole
music.
time.
Just at the top of your lungs. Like, we're not asking you to leave, sir.
But yeah, no long lasting damage. It healed after about like a week and there was no more pain in my eye. But yeah, I still have the photo that, maybe we can post that with the video. Just a photo of me on that bed with my agent and her translator posing up for me.
You have it?
Yeah, I have it.
Oh, that's a tweet if I've ever seen it. Anyway, so I found the videos from that roof. So here's one. This is great content for a podcast. So that's me on my back, and you can tell the bottom is just disgusting.
It's so sleek.
Ooh, I know that sting, like that sting face. It's like, oh yes.
Yeah. And then here's the one of me coming down out of the darkness, and maybe I'll try and put it close enough to that, but.
Oh my god, you're taking off. You just gone into the ether.
Listen to Matt laugh
Matt has no clue whether you're alive or dead, but he's just gonna laugh.
I was just there 1 second.
Schrodinger's Kaegan.
There 1 second and gone the next. That's how I like to live my life.
Alright. Kaegan's still breathing. I'm still breathing. How about you? Are you still breathing?
What time do you feel like you need? It's 6:31 right now.
I say I got just enough time for your wonderful story, Jay.
All right, like 6:45.
Sure.
You're just gonna start packing up right as I'm about to climax.
Whoa. It's a PG podcast. Maybe G.
I gotta go.
Right now. Okay, so my story will be actually very motivational to me. I think back to it a lot because this was the story that this was the time that really got me into setting personal fitness goals for myself.
Yeah.
And wanting to change my ways, my habits, my diet habits, and my physical habits to be more fit, I guess. And so growing up as a kid, I was a little bit on the heavier side. I was fed a lot of rice from my mom, and it was very delicious. And my portions were just out of control. I remember coming home from school when I finally got to stay home by myself until my parents got home.
And you just make 3 cups of rice. Poured
just
straight
all
in.
rice, just straight rice, maybe some vegetable oil.
I wouldn't even cook it. Why would
I would let it expand in my stomach. No, no, I would I would eat like 3 packets of ramen like at the same time, and then maybe a box of mac and cheese, and then whatever else I could find in my pantry. I just didn't live
You like
very.
pasta?
How are you?
I do like pasta. How do you not become? If they really say you are what you eat, if you eat like enough ramen, does your chemical makeup just become ramen? Like, do you just start looking like ramen?
The earliest joke I remember telling me that I had a problem is when I was a kid, I drank a lot of Kool-Aid. And when I say a lot of Kool-Aid, I drank Kool-Aid instead of water. And instead of soda. And
It's literally just you now, but with soda.
Wake up in the middle of the night, you have like, you're parched. You just like reach over for your glass of Kool-Aid.
I love the idea of you just have water on your nightstand and then you have like the Kool-Aid powder and you just pour it in the middle of the night.
But my friend, I was hanging out at his house and like legitimately I'm probably in 4th grade. Like that's how young I am, and he was like talking to his mom, and his mom was like, yeah, and when you're blood, like when you're hydrated, your blood runs a little like smoother through the veins and all that kind of stuff. And like when you're dehydrated, it's a little harder for your heart to push the blood through and all that kind of stuff because it's a little thicker. Mm-hmm. She was in nursing school and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And my friend genuinely was like, Well, what if it's someone like Kaegan? Like, does he have Kool-Aid?
Your friend probably had to be like taken through counseling. They're like, here's why that's not okay to say.
Honestly, I kid you not. I kid you not. This kid, shouts out to Joey. But he looks just like Calum. Like when he was a kid, he had that platinum blonde hair. Like he was totally white, and like I was just like a black dude.
I was just gonna say, does the audience know what race you are for context of this
that's
horribly unfortunate moment?
Yeah, what about Kaegan? All he drinks Kool-Aid.
No. All right, and we're canceled.
Joey's not racist. He just had only seen me drink Kool-Aid.
All right, Jay.
But during this time, you know, I just wasn't not the fittest person, and I didn't really care to be fit. And I think what had happened was we went to the beach, my family and I, extended family, and we, you know, even as an unfit person, I could still enjoy the waves and ride in them like a seal. It was amazing. That's my spirit animal, actually. It's like a seal.
Okay.
And you know, so my dad and I were out there catching waves, and you know, he was like ready to go back inside, and I was like, no, let's do one more. Let's get one more good one. And we were out there for like another 15 minutes, just because you know the waves are inconsistent. Waiting to get a good wave to ride, just bodyboarding, you know, body surfing. You're just using your body and you just catch the wave right, and the wave will actually take you. And so we were doing that, and we just kept going. I just wanted to go a little bit deeper. I was like, I see some good waves out there, just a little bit deeper, and the water was maybe up to like just above my shoulders, so I could still breathe. And then you know went down a little bit further. I would say I was. You know when you're a kid and you're in the shallow end of the pool, but you still can't really touch the ground. You're doing that jumping thing.
Yeah.
You know, you're staying afloat by touching the ground. Well, I was at that point where I could almost not touch the ground, and we finally caught a decent wave. And my dad was like, "All right, I want to go back," and I was like, "All right, I should go back too." Little did we know this was the beginning of a riptide. Which a riptide. I think everyone kind of knows. But a riptide is a strong offshore current that is caused by a tide pulling water through an inlet along a barrier beach. I'm not making this any easier to understand. Basically, the water starts pulling you back and going underneath itself. And
takes you out into the ocean.
Into the ocean. And we got caught in that.
There's sharks in the ocean.
And yes. Do you know what's in the ocean?
Because we don't.
We don't know 95% of it. So we get caught in this riptide, and this is 20 minutes past when we decided we were already kind of tired and should probably go back to shore. And so we were exhausted, and we just kept swimming, and obviously you can't swim faster than water moves, and so we're swimming back to shore, and we're only getting pulled out further. And I'm getting tired, you know, didn't have much stamina growing up as a kid. Still don't.
Did you die?
Well, I'm here now.
Spoiler alert.
Oh,
just calm down. I want to hear the whole story before we know the end.
My apologies.
Did you die? Instant spoiler. We're getting pulled out, and I am starting to go under. Like there are moments where I'm like barely able to touch the ground, push myself above water. My dad is also exhausted. You know, was a very fit guy in his youth, but you know.
It's been a couple years.
Some of the same. Yeah,
a couple years.
He's getting old.
Been a couple ramen packets.
He found pasta too. He introduced me.
And he stayed home alone. I mean, you know that.
And so I didn't really fear that I was going to drown and die. But what I did fear was that it was going to be a whole scene. That maybe that the lifeguards are going to have to come out. That this is going to have to be a whole team effort. They were going to have to shut down the beach.
I really thought for a moment that you were like, if I die, that's okay. But if like they bring in like news choppers for my death and whatnot, that's just embarrassing. I don't want that to happen. That's what motivated me to get back to shore.
Yeah, I just thought
I don't want my corpse on the nightly news.
I was scared more of embarrassment than death, maybe. But I knew that like. This could potentially be an ordeal, and I could probably seriously get, you know, so I could get hurt. I could start drowning and like get some water in my lungs and have to be given CPR and stuff like that. So I was on my last couple of strokes, and my dad looks over to this guy who's on. There's several surfers out there and people on boogie boards, and they're actually doing just fine. Like, they don't even notice because they have a giant flotation device with them. They don't notice that there are people struggling and that there's a riptide going on.
Didn't
bet
you
they
guys
don't
have
eat ramen.
flotation devices with you?
No, we were just bodyboarding the whole time.
What's a body? Does a bodyboard not float? Do I not know?
I think we're talking about two different things. There's a bodyboard.
I'm thinking of boogie boards, I think.
Boogie boards.
Yeah, that's what we're
Oh,
thinking.
But we're
yeah,
just
you
body
dance
like we're
on it.
using the buoyancy of our bellies to keep us afloat throughout the wave ride. And so we're on the last couple of strokes. I'm about to go under, and my dad looks over to this one guy on a boogie board. He's like, can we get a little help? Like, we need help.
We need a lift here. Thumb up and everything.
It was very dire, so he wasn't like,
Excuse me, if it's no
Look.
bother to you.
yeah, he was like, help, please, help. And the guy hands us the boogie board, and I'm exhausted. They like roll me onto it, and a wave just happens to come by and takes me.
I love your fat little infant body just rolled over, face towards the sun, basking in it, just
I was actually
carried like Christ on the cross.
Close. I was actually face down on the board, and the wave took me, and I was just passed out on the board. And it was the best ride of my entire life. It took me all the way to the shore. I was just laying on it, and I'm just being carried all the way to the sand. I actually stop at the sand. The wave returns back to the shore, like the water returns, and I am like beached. and
I would love if it just brought you so close to the shore. And then it just sucked you all the way back out to the
Final Destination.
And then you never saw your dad again?
Turns out all my dad had to do, and kind of all you have to really do to get out of the riptide, if you're at the very beginning of it, is go all the way underwater and push yourself forward. The riptide is very surface level. You have to go underwater, push yourself towards the shore, and if you're at the very edge of it, you should be able to get out of it. And so he did that because I think he knew he could do that. I just don't think he could really convey that that's what you're supposed to do to my young self.
He can't quite explain that while you're struggling to breathe.
He's like struggling to breathe, and he's like just water in his mouth, like Jack. And
he's using his dying breath
underneath.
to explain. So he did that, and so he came back soon after, and we walked. And there's actually also a picture of me and him walking, looking like zombies, coming up to where our towels and chairs and stuff are set up, and we laid down and took a half an hour nap.
Every calorie in the body.
Had some barbecue flavored Lays. Those
He
those
still
always
remembers
hit me.
those.
And then we busted out our trusty packets of ramen and
Just crush them and just pour the powder all over them.
Whenever you have Lays, do you just appreciate life a little bit more? Just brings you back.
Chips just hit different at the beach, particularly sour cream and onion and barbecue.
Oh, dang.
You should bring those to the
not
beach.
wrong.
So long to make a not so long story. It only took 10 minutes. To wrap it all up, that kind of convinced me you need to be able to survive those kind of situations, and you need to be able to work. Your lungs need to be better, and your body should be a little bit more.
Would you say
There you go.
in a situation like that, you should get better lungs so you can keep breathing?
Well, I would say that. I think that kind of comes with exercise.
Yeah.
But are you breathe? Are you making sure that you're breathing enough?
Oh my goodness.
Manually breathing.
And that is the manually
making sure
breathing
of
podcast.
it.
Is there any through line that we can try and throw together for all three of these stories? Just something that ties them all
We
together.
all kind of
didn't
escaped
die.
death in a way.
We didn't...
From very mundane situations by compare, most near death experiences are I almost got hit by a train that was completely not my fault or something or almost got hit by a car. Ours is all we put ourselves in some dumb situations that we got almost pretty hurt from.
Death by mundanity.
Death by mundanity.
Death by mundanity. Thank you all for listening. That was story time.
Story time.
In general, go to bed.
Go to bed. Yeah, listen to this before bed.
And really think about it. Is it worth it?
That's the more.
Any decision making.
Cut it. Please cut it right there. Just and really think of it as worth it.
Goodbye, everyone.